Hi everybody, and welcome to the Ciao Enchanted Land mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. All of the products that I am using here that are from the Scrap and Create website are listed in the description box below, so you can just click on those links and follow along in the tutorial. In today's tutorial, we're going to begin working on page 2. So the first thing that I did was cut off my band, and I'm leaving this at 8¼ inches. So I just cut off 1/4 inch so that it's not sticking out of the bottom. Then I took this 8x8 paper and I cut this to 6¾ inch. Then I cut this in half at 4 inches. So these are going to go here and here. And I'm going to place them a little bit closer to the center than at the bottom so that I have just a small space between them, and then it's a more uniform border around the outside edges. So it gives my image a little bit more of a continuous look too. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these on, and I'm also going to adhere this 1¼ inch strip right on here to the front of my long strip. From this leftover piece that I had from before, I cut a strip off that measures 3¼ inches and it's 1¼ inches wide. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to place this here on the front of this band. Then I'm going to place another piece here for this one to slide down in. Next, I cut this heart image from both the 12x12 and the 8x8 paper. Then I took this one and I laid it on white cardstock and I cut around it so that there's a small border. Then I took this and I traced a second one, so I have 2 identical pieces of white, and then I have the larger and smaller pieces here. I'm going to be adding this as a closure on the front. So I'm going to be putting this one here like this, and then I'm going to put the other one on the back, but I'm not going to attach this in the center so that this band will slide underneath of it. So first I'm going to apply this to the center of one of my white hearts. Now that this is on the center, I'm going to place this so that it has just a little bit of this above it, because that'll make it easier for that band to tuck in. Then I'm going to hold this in place and I'm going to take the other heart and then I'm going to place this here. Now I'm going to remove this one. I'm going to hold this heart down while I open this. Okay, I'm going to draw lines here. That's where my band is going to go. And on this one, I'm going to glue the entire thing down. I drew those lines that way if it happens to shift a little bit while I do this, I can just move it back. But I want to make sure that I have my adhesive here on these sides too, because that's going to catch the one on top. So I've got this one in place now. Then I'm going to take this one and line up those edges, and then I will press down between those layers. So now my band will slide there and keep my page closed. From this paper, I cut another strip that's 1¼ by 3¼ I'm going to place this here first on the band. Then I'm going to take my small heart and I'm going to place it here in the center. So obviously there's going to be a larger border around it, but that's okay. Or you don't have to put this piece and you could just put this and leave that white if you prefer that look. From this 12x12 paper, I've cut this to 6¾ by 8 inches, and this is going to go here on the base of the page. Then I had this 8x8 paper. I cut it in half at 4 inches. Then from the first piece, this was also here. I've cut this to 5 3/4 of an inch. It's going to go here on the front of my first flap. Then I cut 2 1/2-inch pieces, and they are going to go here on the ends on my waterfall tabs to give this a continuous look to my pattern. So I'm going to put these just slightly tucked underneath each of the flaps with that small border between them. And then on the top, I did the same thing, cutting from this way, 5 3/4. So it's going to go here. Then for this piece, I had this piece left. I cut 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch, and I will place these here and here, so I have that continuous pattern on the top. From this 12 by 12 sheet, I first cut one row 4 inches by 12 inches. Then I cut 2 pieces that measure 5 3/4 by 4 inches. Then I cut the rest, I cut 2 more 4-inch strips, and then I cut these into 5 1/4 by 4-inch pieces, and I have 4 of these. So I'm going to take 2 of these and 1 of the larger pieces. I'm going to flip open my tab, or my first waterfall flap. I'm going to take 1 of the 5 1/4-inch pieces and place it here right next to my butterfly paper. Then I'm going to take the next piece, another 5 1/4-inch piece, and I'm going to place it on the front of the second flap, again, right next to that flap. Then I'm going to take my 5 3/4-inch piece, and I'm going to place it here on the base. Then I'm going to do the same thing at the top, taking my 5 1/4-inch piece, placing it here right next to my butterfly paper, taking my second 5 1/4-inch piece, placing it here on the second flap right next to the paper, then taking my 5 3/4-inch piece, placing it here on the base of my page. From the remaining pieces of this paper that we used for the front of the flaps, I've cut 6 pieces that are 1/2 inch wide, 4 inches long. We're going to use these on the ends of the flaps on the inside. And then I have, from this 12 by 12 paper here, I've cut 6 pieces that measure 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So we're going to take one of our 1/2 inch strips and place it on the end, and one of our pages, or one of our decorative papers, and place it here right next to it. So kind of the mirror image of this. And we're going to do that on the 3 flaps on the bottom. And then we will do the same thing on the 3 flaps on the top, except for reversing the order so that we have the decorative paper on the inside here and the 1/2 inch strip on the outside here. I had this leftover strip of paper from the inside, and I've cut this to 8 inches. Then I trimmed it to 1 1/4 inches. I'm going to place this here on the inside of my closure band. Then I had my piece left that was 4 inches by 1 1/2 inches, and I've cut this to 4 pieces that are 3/8 of an inch by 4 inches. We're going to place these inside. So opening these up, I'm going to place one piece between my flaps here and here, and then one piece here and here. From this 8x8 paper down the side here, I've cut these two little bookmark pieces, and I'm going to adhere these down to these flaps. Now you can leave these sides open if you want a larger photo to be able to slide behind, but I think a 4x4 photo will still fit here if it's already adhered down. And then I'm going to place the second one up here on the top. From this A4 sheet, I've cut this label or this piece, and I've added a little white border around it. And then from this A4 sheet, I've cut, I think it was here, the tag shape. And I'm going to adhere this down here, and I'm just going to adhere 3 sides to make a pocket, and then add my tag in here. Now I am not going to add any ribbon here because I want my page to close flat. You can add ribbon if you want to, it'll just be a little bit lumpier and not close quite the same. Once I have all of my pieces on, I'm going to go ahead and fold up my page, and this will meet here in the center. Then I'm going to take my band and close my page. And I'm going to add my butterfly chipboard piece here on my heart. And this is all for now. Once I finish the back side, I will probably come back and I might add some pearls, maybe some of those flowers. So next we will turn over and begin working on the back side of page 2. So first I've cut 2 pieces of my graphic 45 trim to 8.5 inches long. I have marked the center on my front flap here, and I'm going to place one of these ribbon ends here. Then I'm going to open this up, and I've also marked the center on the second one, and I'm going to place the ribbon for the second one here. I'm going to close this really quick, make sure that they are even. And I'm going to press this down so that it will stick really well without coming up. From this 8x8 paper, I've cut from the bottom left corner 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I'm going to place this one here on the front of my card, covering the ribbon end. Then from the 12x12 paper, I've cut 1 piece to 6 3/4 by 8 inches, and I'm going to adhere this behind the belly band on the base of my page. Then from this leftover scrap that I've been using, I am going to have 2 pieces, and these pieces measure 1 1/8 by 2 3/4. I have 2 of them. One's going to go here up against the side of this card. The other one's going to go here up against the side of this card, and they should line up with these papers. From this 12x12 paper, I've cut 4 pieces that measure 4 1/4 by 6 inches. Now I'm going to adhere this one down here towards the bottom, this one up here towards the top, this one with the bottom edge towards the score line, and this one with the top edge towards the score line. Then from the piece that's left over, I cut strips. There are 4 of them that measure 1/2 inch by 4 1/4 inches. I'm going to place one at the top here, one at the bottom here, one at the bottom of the lower flap, and one at the top of the upper flap. Then from this piece that we've cut the background from the front, I've cut another piece to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I'm going to adhere this here in the center. From this 12x12 sheet, I've cut this first at 4 1/4 inches, then I've cut this into 2 pieces that are 6 inches, and then I've cut this one to 4 1/4 by 6 inches. Then I cut another piece from this paper. It was first 1.5 by 4.25. Then I cut it into 3 pieces that are 1/2 inch by 4.25 inches. And we're going to do the same thing as we did here using these pieces. So for the first one, it's going to be on this portion. We're going to cover up the end of the ribbon, and then we're going to place one of these strips up here at the top. Then for the second one, we're going to open up. For the upper flap, we're going to use this one. I'm going to place it at the top and put my strip of paper down here at the bottom. And then for the lower flap, I'm going to use the one with the butterfly, and then I'm going to place my strip up here at the top. From the A4 sheets, I've cut these 2 pieces. I'm going to adhere one up here and one down here to finish off my flaps. You can leave it open so the photo will tuck behind it, or you can adhere the whole thing down and just put a smaller photo. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I think I'm going to just adhere down part of it, that way a larger photo or a smaller photo can go on the page. I've also taken my scoring tool and I've run it right along the edge of this paper here and right along the edge of this paper here. And then I have very carefully bent this back and up because I think I need another gusset here just because I've got so much paper under here, and I probably should have done this when I was designing it, but I wasn't thinking about it at the time. I did the same thing over here. So now it will sit, it gives it a little bit more of a flatter look so that it doesn't really stick up as much, and whenever it's tied close, it'll lay flatter. The final thing I'll make for the page is a tag to go behind here. I've just taken the rest of this piece of paper that I had, I trimmed the piece down. It's 3 3/4 of an inch wide, and it is 8 inches long. So it's from the 8 by 8 paper. And I just cut my corners off. And then from the A4 pad, I cut this, and I'm going to place this here on the back side. So I'm going to keep this little ladybug so you can see it, and then the butterfly. So I'm going to adhere this right down here to the page, and then I will tuck this down behind my fold out feature on the page. The final thing I'm going to add to my page is one of the larger teal flowers down here, and I've got some little pearls here inside the centers of my poppies, and then I put one of my chipboard butterflies up here, and I put some pearls in the center. So I'm going to adhere all of this down, wait for it to dry, then I'll flip over and we'll come back to the front side and add some decorations there. For the back side, I'm going to put 4 pearls on the center of my butterfly. I've put a couple here in the centers of my flowers, and then I'm going to put 1 here, 2 here, and 1 here. Now you can go ahead and put some flowers up the band if you want to add flowers to this page too, but I'm just going to be putting the pearls on mine because this is the coordinating page, and I want to make sure that nothing catches on this and holds it up. So I don't want it to be too bulky, and with this and this, I'm afraid if I put more on there, it won't close correctly. So this is it for the tutorial. We are finished with our second page, and it's ready to go. If you are just joining the tutorial series, all of the products that you need to make this mini album are linked in the description box below on the Scrap and Create website and also in my Etsy shop. So you can click on those links, purchase those products, and follow along. See you in the next tutorial.